Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing?
Hello.
Thanks for being here with us today. We appreciate you taking the time.
Happy to do it. I'm sure you're doing a long day of interviews, so you can do it.
This is the first of many, so
Come first. At least you're not exhausted yet.
so I know we've worked with you over many, many years of you working with Southwest Florida. So thank you again for taking the time. I'm Tiffany Esposito. I'm the president and CEO of the Bonita Springs Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm the chair of this group, which is the Southwest Florida Alliance of Chambers. We have met with you as a group a few times already, but just to refresh your memory, we are chambers of commerce representing Lee and Collier County. We represent 6,000 businesses and about 300,000 residents and constituents. And we are doing candidate interviews for the candidates running for election. We are recording this interview and we're going to be posting it on our websites and social media. So thank you again. Before we get started, I'll go ahead and have everybody introduce themselves. If we want to go Chris, Colleen, Jenna, then Donna.
Of course. Hey, Dane, great to see you. Thank you for participating. I'm here on behalf of the Southwest Florida Chamber, and we appreciate your time.
Dane, I'm Colleen DePasquale from the Greater Fort Myers Chamber of Commerce. And again, thanks for taking the time today to be with us.
You got it.
Jenna?
Hi, Dane. It's Jenna Bazzaco-Forster, the Greater Naples Chamber. Thanks for joining.
Got it. Good to see you.
Nice.
Hi, Dane.
Hey,
Donna Germain, Chamber of Commerce, Cape Coral. Thank you for being here with us.
Good to be on. Thank you.
So we're asking all of the candidates the same questions in the same order. So the first one is a softball for you. If you can just go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Sure. I'm born and raised in Southwest Florida. Commercial real estate broker by trade. Went to Bishop Rowe High School. I ran in 2012 for the Florida House, where I serve now, because I was concerned about our community. And then it was an economic issue. We had the rug pulled out from us because of the recession. And I saw how Tallahassee had been making some decisions, and that discouraged me. I should say encouraged me to run, but the decisions discouraged me as a citizen. So got involved to bring some fiscal responsibility to Tallahassee. And since then, we've cut taxes by $10 billion. We've cut the debt by $8 billion, and we've got $4 billion in reserves. So for times like this, as we're now in, let's hope it's not a, knock on wood, a prolonged recession, but certainly we've had a COVID recession, and we need to get back out there. So coincidentally, I'm term limited, and I think we need some stability in Congress. And while I certainly respect term limits and think they're a wonderful thing and something I'll fight for, I think we need someone who's going to be in Congress willing to put a flag in the ground and represent this community. This will be the 5th congressperson we've elected since 2012. And I believe I can bring something to the table that will offer stability. Having navigated the legislative process in Tallahassee, being elected at 29 and becoming the majority leader of the Florida House by 35, we could use some experience, and experience does matter to navigate Washington for our district. So that's why I'm encouraged to run. I love our community, and I want to continue to serve if the voters will have me.
Thank you. You elaborated on this a little bit, but I'll give you a chance to talk about it a little bit more if you would like to. What prompted you to run for the congressional office?
I guess I jumped into molded the first and second question without even realizing it. I apologize, but that's what's prompted me. I have a servant's heart, and I love this community, and I want to serve it. Friends, neighbors, family, you name it. I'm encouraged by my people growing up here. And having like-minded values that I think we need someone to champion on our behalf. I realize that being a representative isn't necessarily being the leader of the community, but rather the voice of the community. And that means that I need to work within the different groups, whether it's the chamber group, the different organizations, everybody, to make sure that we have a voice in Washington who is going to listen to the people and do exactly what they said they were going to do when they campaigned. So we need that. We need consistent conservative leadership. We need someone who's going to defend the Constitution, and we need someone who's going to focus on our economic stability and bring fiscal responsibility to Washington as well.
Great, thank you. What makes you qualified to represent the business community?
I'm a businessman by trade. I've had my real estate license for, 18 years now. I'm a commercial real estate broker. So that is the first and foremost thing that comes to mind is business minded. Small businesses drive our economy. The more that we can allow families and businesses to thrive, the better our economy is going to be. They produce jobs, they're the job creators. So rather than looking to government for all the answers, I've looked to get government out of our lives so that families and businesses, employees, employers can make the decisions that best fit them because they're the innovators, they're the job creators, and they're the ones that can help our economy thrive and bring us out of debt, bring our country out of debt, and get us out of any long-term recession that we might see from this COVID and economic shutdown. So that's what I bring to the table, understanding how business works and making sure that businesses can thrive.
Great. In your opinion, what's the most pressing issue facing the Southwest Florida business community, and if elected, what would you do to address this issue?
Again, I think that's it's very current right now is going to be getting our economy back on track, and businesses are going to do that better than government can. Government is the reason for this economic. I hate using the word recession because we're all still very nervous about the last one, but we are in some kind of a funk because government came in and said businesses are not allowed to operate. Now, I think our president, our governor did a great job threading that needle, trying to find the balance between health and public safety and economic stability. We as Florida, we're one of the last states to shut down, one of the first to reopen. So I give our governor credit for that. But make no mistake about it, government came in and said businesses can no longer operate, you must shut down. And now we're in this mess. So I think government does owe just compensation for the shutdown for anyone who is at a loss. Government does owe that. That's constitutional. And I think that we need to make sure that that is also backfilled. Those who are responsible must pay. And I think China is responsible, and they should pay for not only the $1 trillion deficit that we're in and soon rising to $5 trillion. We as a country owe China $1 trillion in debt. And furthermore, our stimulus packages through CARES is $4 or $5 trillion. They owe us for that as well. So we need to go back and make sure that money is first and foremost put back into our system to make sure the taxpayers are whole. Because make no mistake about it, while government's been able to pay for the short term to make sure, through PPP or stimulus, that some people were able to at least remain whole through the shutdown, that's money on the back of our kids and grandkids. I'm welcoming my son here in 2 weeks, and the more government continues to spend what they don't have, I'm asking my son to now step in and pay for that, and that is not right. So, that's more the global and worldwide scale, but that's what you need to look to as a congressman, and that certainly affects Southwest Florida. I think extremely. Our economy has been traditionally dependent on tourism, building, construction, and then agriculture to a degree. Those are the three, legs of the stool of our economy in Florida as a whole. We need to diversify that. And I think we diversify that and allow more people to come to Southwest Florida. They're going to come here because Florida's got a good economic structure and because it's a beautiful place to live. But we also need to have the best regulatory environment possible. So get government out of the way. Government's already stepped in and screwed it up enough. Make sure they're out of the way. Regulatory environment is going to support people to come here and want to create jobs and continue to grow. So that is first and foremost the biggest threat facing our local businesses is economics, and we need to fix that.
Awesome, thank you. So speaking of the three-legged stool and economic diversification, we know that we're heavily dependent on leisure and hospitality sectors. So if elected, what would you do to encourage economic diversification in our region?
And I think that's it. Well, one, what we can do, and it's also working hand in hand with locals. So, as your congressperson, my vote counts nationwide. And then, of course, as a state representative, which I've served at, that counts statewide. And then you've got your local county and city officials, and then the groups such as yourself, the chambers. So I think it's working hand in hand. So my job at the federal level will be to make sure that we all have an even playing field. Peeling back regulations, allowing manufacturing jobs to come back to, not just Florida specifically, but the entire United States, but then working hand in hand with our local officials and our state officials to make sure Florida is the best place. So when they do decide to come back here from China or wherever it might be that took our manufacturing jobs, that Florida's ready, willing, and able to welcome them, and specifically Southwest Florida as well. So that local communication is extremely important, and maybe something that we haven't had in some of our past Congress people as well, but having come up through the grassroots and coming up through the community, you can count on me to make sure that we keep those lines of communication open.
Thank you. So the Southwest Florida Alliance of Chambers was formed in the wake of the 2018 water crisis, and water quality has been our #1 priority since then. So if elected, what specific projects would you advocate for to improve and protect Southwest Florida's water quality?
And I'm glad you all did that. That has been amazing help, especially in Tallahassee, trying to have a unified voice to fight for the things that we all know we need, especially here in Southwest Florida. So being born and raised here, water's always been in the forefront of my mind. When I ran in 2012, I ran what I call the 4 E's of Eagle: economy, education, ethics, and the environment. And even then in 2012, Republicans to some degree were saying environment's a liberal issue. It's not a liberal issue. This is a human issue. This is a Southwest Florida issue. This is something that's important. So I always continue to fight for our environment and make sure that we have the resources necessary to fix the problems that we've had in the past. And the problems of 2018 were exacerbated by many things, but what it did do is it highlighted the real problem, the underlying issues that we have here as a state. And it's through no fault of anybody that's here currently, but it's a 100-year-old problem, but we are all now part of the problem that we need to fix. So what we need to do at the federal level is continue to fight for the funding to finally complete the Central Everglades Restoration Program, the CERP, which was approved in 2000 by then Governor Bush and President Clinton, and has been delayed, unfortunately. But since I've been in office in Tallahassee in 2016, we made sure that we got $200 million a year for the next 20 years to go towards these projects. In 2017, we expedited the Southern Reservoir to make sure that that is at the forefront. We have water flowing south. And then in 2019 and 2020, as House Majority Leader, we had $1.3 billion, an unprecedented amount of money, go towards Everglades restoration and water quality. Now that's part of that 50-50 cost share. And in the last 2 years, Congress, through our local congressmen and senators and our president, we got $500 million towards that. So that's amazing because that's more than we've had out of the feds in a long time. But still, there's a disparity: $500 million at the federal level to $1.3 billion at the state level. It's supposed to be a 50-50 cost share. So what I'll be doing as your congressperson is fighting to make sure that we are getting more than just the $500 million we had in 2 years to finally complete these projects: Reservoir South, East, West, North of the lake, fixing the dike, raising Tamiami Trail, you name it. We need to make sure that this flood control system is fixed once and for all, and the water runoff is fixed through fertilizer, through septic tanks, through runoff from our cities and counties, septic issues, sewer issues. All of that needs to be fixed, but it's going to take funding, and I will be there to make sure that we finish this 20-year-old promise once and for all.
Thank you. What specific actions do you think lawmakers should take to improve and protect Southwest Florida's waterways?
So what we can do, and a lot of it is local. So we got to look to, I respect our states' rights. So at the federal level, I do believe that we need the funding that is going to come down and make sure we finish these projects, because that is a federal and a state issue. When Congress decided to make Florida a state, government decided, let's drain the Everglades, let's make it the breadbasket for our country. And they also offered, half the Everglades to the developers and the drainers of the Everglades if they were successful. So government very much perpetuated this system, this 100-year-old problem, by encouraging people to figure out how to drain Florida, and we need to reverse that. So government is responsible to reverse that, and that's where that funding will come into play. So I think that's where the feds can be the most helpful in that. Obviously, we need to look at countrywide regulations to make sure that water flow is happening the right way. We got to protect our environment. We got to protect this country. That's first and foremost. But a lot of that should come from the state. But what the feds can do is help with the funding, and that's where I'll be focused.
Thank you. So last question, is there anything else you would like us to know about you or your priorities?
Sure. I'll touch a little bit on what I said in the opening, but being born and raised here, this has always been my home, always will be my home. I'm born and raised here. I'm welcoming my son here in 2 weeks. He's going to be born and raised here, and I want to leave something behind for him. I have a servant's heart. The reason I'm running is because we owe Southwest Florida the best representation possible. We've got a lot of choices in this race. 10 people are running, and that's democracy. That's a wonderful thing. But where I stand apart is that I am someone who not only loves this community because will always be my home and always has been, but because you sent me to Tallahassee to navigate the process and deliver, and have an 8-year proven record of being able to do so, became the majority leader by 35, been able to navigate that legislative process. So if you send me to Washington, I don't need to start from ground zero. I've already done this. I know what I need to do, and I know how to deliver. And I will put my flag in the ground and make sure that we have consistent representation. I believe in term limits. We can't have someone there for another 2 to 4 years. We need consistency, and I'm willing to offer that. when we finally get something done, I'll come home and I'll continue to live here and live under the laws that I voted for and enacted and be responsible for everything that I've done. And I'll continue to communicate. You can't communicate if you're not present. I've always been present. I always will be. So I appreciate the consideration, and I'm happy to see you all doing this and making sure we get our voices out.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. We really appreciate it, and good luck in the election.
I appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of your interviews. Thank you.
Thank you, Dane.
All right.
Thanks, Dane.
See y'all.